You're listening to Innovation Radio, where we interview entrepreneurs focused on innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. Innovation Radio is brought to you by the world's first theme park for entrepreneurs, the Levan Center of Innovation, the only innovation center in the nation to support the founder's journey from birth of idea through successful exit or global expansion. Now, here's your host, Lee Cantor.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Innovation Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, the Levan Center of Innovation. Without their support, we could not be sharing these important stories. Today on the show, we have Manish Hirapara with PeakActivity. Welcome.
Great to be here, Lee.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about PeakActivity. How are you serving folks?
We're an 8-year-old company, and we're based here right in South Florida. We have an office in the Levan Center of Innovation, and we're really an established and proven partner for companies, businesses mostly, that are engaging in an e-commerce or technology journey. And we really provide them the resources, expertise, and technology they need to elevate their outcomes in their e-commerce and technology journeys.
Now, in today's world, aren't pretty much every company that's online doing e-commerce in some manner?
It's, the lines have definitely become much more blurred than they used to be in the past. Really, commerce in general, almost in a way, we want to drop the E out of it and just say commerce is done in a multitude of channels. There's almost every store has an e-commerce presence, and every e-commerce site that is largely successful has started to open stores. So yes, it is really, pretty much anyone that's doing something digital is in the commerce business online.
And that even goes to service-based businesses. I mean, they're looking for ways, to help their customer to productize maybe something that they're offering that's a service, but also to, make that transaction happen online.
Absolutely. And if you're a service-based business that isn't thinking of it that way, you're missing out on some great revenue opportunities and great business opportunities. And I'll use an example lead, which is if you're an air condition repair company, traditional service business, you go to people's homes and you repair heating or electric. Well, you can now sell contracts online for maintenance and get people that are looking for those types of things, that you've got a built-in demand pool through online commerce that you may not even have thought possible before.
So now what's kind of your backstory? How'd you get involved in this line of work?
I actually started my career as a software developer, software engineer, and I was fortunate enough to have landed a job at Office Depot, which at the time was the number 2 online retailer in the world. And so early on in the growth of online commerce, Office Depot was there. People started switching from fax machines and catalogs to buying, their pens and their paper and their ink and toner through digital means. It just became a matter of convenience. And I helped build their entire e-commerce platform and helped lead a lot of the teams there. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I've actually started 12 different companies or been involved in 12 different startups throughout my journey. And in 2015, I had the opportunity to start PeakActivity, really with the intent of taking all of the expertise, knowledge, trials, tribulations that I had learned through growing a $7 billion online retail operation within Office Depot and saying, we can help other companies who may be a little later in their journey in the online world. And so we started really just being what we call fractional chief technology officer, fractional chief marketing and digital officer for companies around their online strategy. And from there, it grew to where we've got over 100 employees and helping many companies worldwide.
Now, is your work primarily in building that technology infrastructure that enables them to do commerce, or is it even at the point of helping them with their marketing and digital marketing to help them attract people into their, website so they can do more e-commerce sales, or both?
It's both. Really, what we like to start with is the strategy. Oftentimes people will just jump into something. They'll build an e-commerce site and they won't understand. It's no different than any business. You need to have the right goals. You need to have the right organization and people. You need to have the right techniques, all that in place. So oftentimes we will help a business owner or leadership team reset on their strategy and really kind of figure out based on experience what the new strategy is. From there, we'll help them build or create that next generation experience that they're after. And oftentimes that is the technology implementation of it, that it may be some of the design work that goes into it. And from there, it's the optimization. How do you actually take what you've built? Just because you built it, they don't come, and you've got to optimize it. And we'll think about their data strategy. We'll think about how they're running their marketing programs, and we'll help with things like their email or SMS marketing or their A/B testing strategies to really grow their business online.
Now, who is your ideal client? Are they the Office Depot sized organizations that have already tried this in some regard and are maybe frustrated with the results, and then you come in and either kind of reboot them or just tweak what they have? Or can it be somebody that has one product and they have an idea and they want to just try it out online?
But really, our ideal client is somebody who is looking for help, and typically it's not that Office Depot size corporation, because they usually have large teams and you're one of many in a big pond there. But what we found is most of our clients tend to be that mid-sized company. They're not so small that they're a startup and just trying to make ends meet and bring a product to market. But what they're doing is they're seeing this gap between the haves and the have-nots. The gap is, if you're embracing technology, if you're embracing digital, you can move faster than your competition. And those types of organizations know the climb is steeper than it's ever been. But you've got to be a digitally minded organization. You've got to really overcome that challenging competitive landscape and really go faster than your peers. A lot of our clients like to think of themselves as technology companies, even if they might be doing things like selling furniture, because if you don't embrace the technology, if you don't embrace the e-commerce piece of it, you're going to be left behind, and that's the last thing that we want for any of our clients.
Are some of your clients have they never been in this space or not as deep as you'd like them to be in this space, and this is the first time they're kind of putting all their chips on the table and saying, okay, we're going to go all in with digital? We might have done it with ads or different channels previously, but this digital, we have to be there. We have to be, we have to kind of dominate that space if we want to be successful, or else we could be out of business. I mean, that's the stakes in this, right?
It absolutely is. I think it's shifted over the last few years, and the COVID-19 pandemic changed things quite a bit, where a lot of that e-commerce demand got brought forward solely because it had to, right? So we saw a huge bump in 2020, 2021, where companies were pressed to move quickly into new technologies, new tools, new ways to engage their customer that may have been a little uncomfortable for them. So anyone that goes into a restaurant now, you're used to the QR code menu, whereas in 2019, 2020, you might not have been. So I do think it's shifted a little bit now, where people are saying, okay, I get it, but it's not optimized for my business results. And a lot of what we're really focusing on, much more so over the last 2 years, has been a lot of people are in the space, but they don't know exactly how to get the engine working like a fine-tuned machine. And they know that the opportunity is there in front of them. They know they need to embrace the opportunity, but they don't necessarily have the know-how, or should expect to have the know-how internally. There's a lot of presidents and CEOs who say, I get it. I know I need to do it, but I got to do it the right way. And I don't want to waste money failing multiple times until I get it right. And that's really where we see the opportunity for a company like ours.
Now, what are some of those symptoms that a company is maybe dabbling? Maybe they've had, a little bit of a bump, but they could be leaving money on the table if they don't partner with the right expert like you and your team. Can you talk a little bit about what are some symptoms of maybe a digital strategy that isn't, where there's room for growth that they may not, they're seeing some success, but there could be a ton more if they would just tweak a couple things.
Absolutely. If you're a data person, just look at your conversion rate or how often your cash register is ringing. And almost every company, even Amazon, will test their way into getting their cash register ringing more often. And you've got to be able to run those experiments. You got to be able to use data in a way that provides you meaningful insights. And I think if you're a company and you're saying, we're just effectively not doing that, we're not running experiments, we're not thinking about our customer journey, well, then you're leaving money on the table. And so the truth is, very few companies have this perfectly dialed in, but there's the majority of the companies that are out there that could be gaining, with a little bit of investment, a lot more return. And so I think it's really important for companies to identify that this is a journey. This is a never-ending stream. This isn't something you do once. You don't just build your e-commerce. That in 2020 I invested it and I built my e-commerce journey, and off we go. It's something that you've got to be working on every single day. No different than if you got a house and it's facing the ocean, and the ocean's sea breezes the salt's eating away your paint. You paint it every 2 years. You got to keep painting your experience, and as customer behaviors shift, you've got to keep up with them.
So if it's not, it might be a yellow, maybe it's not all the way a red flag, but if your team aren't running experiments on a semi-regular basis, that's kind of a yellow or red flag, right? Absolutely.
If you aren't looking at data, if you aren't digesting it and saying, what are we going to tweak or adjust? Well, then that's definitely a yellow flag to say, well, we're gonna end up in stasis, and we're going to eventually get out-muscled by the competition, because the truth is the competition is doing those things in every sector. And if it's not the existing competition, there's an upstart. For every Kmart, there's an Amazon that's come along and really put them out of business. And they were put out of business mainly because they didn't continue to innovate, continue to evolve, continue to leverage new tools. And I'll use one simple example here is we've got AI-based tools like ChatGPT coming out now. Every business needs to be running some experiments to say, how can I be using things like generative AI, even though I may have spent a ton of money in 2020 bringing up e-commerce? Well, now you're going to think about, how am I going to use ChatGPT and my e-commerce experience together? So if you're not constantly looking at those types of things, you're missing the mark, and somebody else is going to evolve faster than you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what Bezos said, your margin is my opportunity.
That's a fantastic quote. Fantastic quote. I love every day is day one, right? Look at it as that way.
Right. You have to have that,
whether it's e-commerce or not.
Yeah, you have to have that beginner's mindset. I think it's a humbling profession because things change so quickly. I mean, we're all now dancing because ChatGPT put out a thing for us to play with. Mm-hmm. And nobody was thinking about this except the people that were the AI nerds, 4 years ago, even though we've all been playing with, our Alexa at home and asking it questions, right, and it giving us answers. We got kind of used to that pretty quick, but you put a little chat bot, a little box there, and you can ask whatever question you want, and it sounds like a human answering you, and now, your head's blown.
Absolutely. Yeah. Humans are curious in nature, right? And that curiosity is very, very much welcome, especially when you think about tools like ChatGPT. I always like to use the example of anyone who's ridden in a Tesla or driven a Tesla. Tesla has been doing AI machine learning for 7 or 8 years. Every road that somebody's got autopilot on, they're learning from it, and they're making sure that they're adapting. So this is nothing new, but it's just an evolution of kind of where things have been, and it's just the next step in the journey. And the journey is going to continue going on into the night. Let's put it that way. As long as we don't blow ourselves up and AI doesn't kind of take us out in the process, we're going to keep going, and we're going to continue to get better.
Yeah, I mean, things move gradually, then suddenly. I mean, this has been going on for years, like you said, in the background, and then all of a sudden now it's in everybody's face, and now everybody's scrambling. And that's why it's so important to have, like you were saying, a philosophy of constant innovation. You have to be doing this every day because you don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what innovation is going to be there tomorrow. And if you're not in it today, it's going to be that much harder to catch up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about your relationship with the Levan Center. What compelled you to get involved and and kind of camp out inside their space, number one, and number two, how important is the Levan Center to the technology scene in South Florida and the innovation scene in South Florida?
Well, our history with the Levan Center is absolutely great. We got in and took a tour before anything had been built, and I took a few looks out the window. One, I was able to see Miami to the south, downtown skyline. I was able to see Fort Lauderdale to the east, and then I was able to see the Everglades to the west. And I said, I mean, this is the center of everything in South Florida. I want to be involved in this in one way or another. And one of our big pillars for here at PeakActivity, and even my personal impact statement is that we want to be fabrics of the community. We want to make sure we're helping others in any which way we can. And so before the concrete was poured and before the finishings were put up, we became members and decided we needed some space in here. We need to be part of this scene. And really the importance of this center, I think is still yet to be seen. But I will tell you personally, it is incredibly important. And maybe yet to be seen is wrong what phrase. It's yet to be realized. The importance of it is because of the central location. You can get there from Miami, you can get there from Coral Gables, you can get there from West Palm Beach, and we've brought people all the way down from Jupiter. And it's an hour drive, no matter where you are in South Florida. It's an hour drive. It's not terrible. It's not 2 hours going from Jupiter all the way down to Coral Gables, where nobody wants to make that drive. And that's number one from a centralization of it. Number two is in terms of its mission. The economic development that technology is bringing, innovation is bringing to every facet of business, right? You just mentioned ChatGPT and AI. The Levan Center is really there to be that catalyst for companies to connect, to collide, for entrepreneurs, for established companies to really have an opportunity to gain access to talent. Without a resource like that in our community, and without a resource that is well funded and well run and really able to drive that economic activity forward, we're going to lose out to other communities who do it better. So I'm really proud of what we built with that Levan Center, and I'm really proud of the opportunities that are going to be in front of us, and really embracing it and being that catalyst to say we can be where the venture capitalists put their money in the next 5 years. We can be the South Florida tech scene hub where now you're going to have entrepreneurs create billion-dollar unicorn companies right out of South Florida. And I do believe the Levan Center is going to be put on the map with those types of opportunities, because it is a great place to begin an idea, but it's also a great place to take and accelerate and really take to IPO an idea that or a company that is mature enough.
And it's so important in a community to have that place where the founders can go hang out, interact with each other, because a startup founding a startup is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of crashes and burns there. But if you have a place where you can jump after a failure or a lesson into somewhere else and say, hey, why don't we partner? Or why don't we mash up my idea with yours over here? Or look, I'm doing this differently than you are. Let's combine forces here. That's where the magic happens. And then you need a place to kind of be that place where synergies can occur, where those collisions can occur. Without that, those entrepreneurs go off, they move. They're like, oh, I'm going to go, I know a buddy in Nashville, I'm going to go there. All of a sudden they're gone. But if you have a way to keep them local, keep them engaged in something, you're going to increase your chances of that unicorn forming itself.
Absolutely. And I do want to add to this. It's more than just entrepreneurs, right? I love entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself. For every entrepreneur, there's 10 innovators, and for every 10 innovators, there's 100 people who can contribute to economic development. And my belief is it's a great, it's a theme park for entrepreneurs. I love it. But I do believe really well-established companies in our community, the Florida Power and Lights, the Next Eras,
right. You need those,
banks.
right. You need the enterprise level for their, and they have to be open-minded to risk political capital and their own capital to partner with some of these young firms, because that's really where the magic happens. That's where you can really get innovation for everybody. It's an ecosystem.
Innovation requires thinking outside the box, and that's where these companies can access the talent they need to not be left behind, to not go into stasis, but to think of it as every day is day one. If you're one of these big companies, absolutely.
Now, so let's get some advice from you. You said you're a serial entrepreneur. You have a lot of success over the years. Talk about like maybe each kind of constituent. How would you recommend an enterprise level organization that isn't involved with Levan? What should they be doing to kind of raise their game and maybe think outside the box to kind of get a taste of what kind of creativity and innovation is happening there?
I think the first thing I would say would be attend an event. There's plenty of great opportunities to get engaged without having to spend a whole lot of time. Take a tour. If you haven't seen the center, it's just it's a magnificent place to take a tour. Everyone we've brought in there, we brought in large company CIOs, we've brought in large company digital marketers. Everyone's blown away by the quality of the space, the physical space, as well as the quality of the people you meet. And then if you're beyond that, if you're taking a tour, if you come to an event, really think about where you might be able to allocate, whether it's some time, whether it's some money, or whether it's some some hidden need that you've got. Allocate a project that you're saying, hey, you know what, we're just not going to get to figuring out how ChatGPT is gonna help the cruise line business or affect our banking business this year. We just don't have the internal resources to do it. And I would just ask you to challenge the Levan Center staff to say, hey, can you find me somebody that, whether it's a person, whether it's a team, whether it's a company, that I can connect with, and force that collision to happen, force that connection to be made for you. And I think you'll be pleased and thrilled with the outcome of what you're going to get, because it'll help you innovate, it'll help you move faster, and it'll help you get things that you're probably worried about, that you're probably not really prepared for. You're saying, well, I can push this to 24 or 25. And instead of saying pushing it to 2024, pushing it to 2025, take that innovation leap now, and I think you'll be really, really happy that you did.
So now let's kind of pitch that entrepreneur, the person with an idea. Maybe they're in corporate right now and they have this thing that's been bugging them, this solution that they see clear as day, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet. How can that entrepreneur, potential aspiring entrepreneur, get involved with Levan? And what are some of the reasons for them to invest some time and resource into doing that?
Anybody that's, and I've been at corporate, I've been at corporate thinking about how I'm going to think about my next startup or get into my next startup. Taking that leap of faith requires really building up courage. And it's not something you want to do alone. You want people who have made those mistakes around you. You're going to learn from your own mistakes, but it's a lot easier when you've got the right mentorship. You've got access to the right capital conversations. You've got access to people who are going to help you with your accounting and your tax and your finances. What I would say would be, if you're that entrepreneur, really seek out the safety net that, even to your point earlier, if it doesn't work, you want to have a safety net of what plan B is, right? And we never want anybody in our network to be sitting there overwhelmed and worried about their security net or anything like that. So I think you want to tap into a community, and that community is already there, built. The access to resources is available to you, and really the know-how to make you successful. I firmly believe capitalism and entrepreneurship are the two best things, or some of the best things we've got going in America. And you've got this great resource available to you in the Levan Center that you can access all of that. And it's an incredible wealth driver from that, right? And let's be honest. Capitalism is great because it gives you the opportunity to create, multi-generational wealth, and that can be tapped and taken into account for yourself. So if you're sitting there on the sidelines, get in the game. Right.
Take action. So what do you need more of? How can we help you at PeakActivity?
With us, it's always about getting the word out, and it's about creating opportunities for us to meet more people and help more businesses. It's simply put, how do we make sure people know about us, know that we're here, know that we're local in their backyard, and know that we've got expertise that we can help them with, right? And the last thing we want to do is see whether you're a mid-sized company, large company, that you're just going to your friend Google and finding a company in Boston or San Antonio, and you engage with them and you end up with a disappointing outcome, or you may even end up with a great outcome. But let's keep economic dollars in our own community as much as possible, and really let's create synergies and connection within our own community. So all I would ask for is anybody that's interested in something like this, feel free to reach out. And we're here. We're a fabric of the community, and we're here to advance and make the largest impact we can in the communities we serve.
And that's peakactivity.com is the website. And if you're anywhere on your e-commerce journey, it's definitely worth a call or conversation just to see what else is out there. And especially if you're local, there's no excuse not to at least meet you guys or somebody on the team to have a conversation, right? I mean, there's no harm in that. You want to meet more people and serve more people.
Absolutely. We welcome anything. There's no commitments or anything like that. We're happy to help. If you're facing a challenge and we don't want you to do it alone, find some experts who'll go with you. And we always use our analogy in the peak activity way of a mountain. You don't climb Mount Everest without a Sherpa. And so let us be those Sherpas. If you're considering climbing Mount Everest or even a small hike, we're there to guide you.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate the time, Lee, and hats off to you. This is great stuff.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you next time on Innovation Radio.
This episode of Innovation Radio was brought to you by the world's first theme park for entrepreneurs, the Levan Center of Innovation, the only innovation center in the nation to support the founder's journey from birth of idea through successful exit or global expansion. If you are ready to launch or scale your business, please check out the Levan Center of Innovation by visiting www.nova.edu/innovation.